Hi BookTube! My name is Sarah and welcome to the Bookish Knitter. Today I am coming to you with a fun holiday themed video. So this is my 5 recommendations for holiday romance. You guys know I read a lot of romance. I read a lot of holiday romance. It's like my favorite thing ever. And I decided to do this video to kind of highlight some of the books that I've read in Christmases past or in holidays past that I really liked. And if you are looking for something, there's still time to read it before the holidays or even after the holidays. I am someone who can definitely read these books all year round, but they are definitely worth your time. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. I apologize greatly for the lighting. It is much later in the day, and I really wanted to get this recorded for you guys. Life's been a little bit crazy because tis the season, my friends. So this is part of the Holiday Advent, the Cozy Holiday Advent, which was created by the wonderful Tiffany over at the Beach Bum Bookworm. I will leave a link or a list in the description box below of everyone who's participating and on what days they are participating. So essentially it's going from booktuber to booktuber over the course of the 24 days, and it's a great way to check out other channels. And yeah, there's reading sprints, there's videos, there's all kinds of fun things. So definitely do go ahead and check everybody out. So apologies, I've got my laptop open over here so I can see all the information. I wanted to make sure that I had all the info on these books, but like I said, I have read all of them and loved all of them. So the first one we're going to start with is one that might surprise some of you because I am generally not the biggest fan of anthologies. So but this one absolutely stole my heart. Pun intended. And this is How the Dukes Stole Christmas by Tessa Dare, Sarah McLean, Sophie Jordan, and Joanne Shoup. So what I loved about this one is the fact that the stories are all semi-interconnected. Like they're not like 100% interconnected with each other. But after you're kind of like 2 or 3 stories into the book, you start to see how they are sort of loosely connected, and I really like that. My biggest issue with anthologies or short stories is that you don't get enough character growth to really, especially when it comes to a romance, to really believe the romance in a very short number of pages. But all of these books were great. I mean, it's definitely because of the authors. I mean, Tessa Dare, Sarah McLean, Joanne Shoup, who else did I say? Sophie Jordan. They're all stellars, like pillars of the historical romance community, and they're all amazing, and I highly recommend this book. It came out a couple of years ago, but like I said, I really, really loved it. And if you're a fan of anthologies, definitely give it a try. This is going to be on the spicier scale because this is a more modern historical romance, if you will, and they tend to get a little bit more spicy than the old Signet Regencies and stuff like that. This is not your Jane Austen, my friends. This is not your Jane Austen, but definitely worth the read. Highly enjoyable. The next book I have to share with you is an absolute favorite of mine. I mean, they all are. It goes without saying, but still. I cannot do a list without highlighting the amazing Jill Shalvis. And the book I want to recommend is Wrapped Up in You, which is book number 8 in the Heartbreaker Bay series. Now, before you out there who are like must-read series in order, you can read this as a standalone, okay, guys? Just go ahead and read it. Read it as a standalone. This one is a great one if you have been reading a lot of Jill Shalvis, if you are very familiar with her work, especially her backlist. Many, many years ago, she wrote a series called the Animal Magnetism series. And there was a character, I believe he was the sheriff or the cop in town, who kind of like was just a side character in a couple of the stories. He has now made an appearance in Heartbreaker Bay. So I love when authors put those Easter eggs, if you will, in there for us readers who have been reading their books forever. And this story was absolutely fantastic. It's a romance between, I believe his name is Keller and her name is Holly. I was close. His name is Kel and her name is Ivy. Not Holly, but Ivy. And this story takes place in San Francisco. The entire Heartbreaker Bay series takes place in San Francisco. It's essentially their romance. They meet. It's sweet. It's amazing. It's spicy because it's Jill Shalvis. This series is absolutely fantastic. Even if you want to go ahead and start at book number 1 and work your way through, there's a couple of different Christmas books sprinkled in throughout the series, but this one, hands down, is my favorite, mainly because of that whole Easter egg aspect for fans for people who are fans of Jill Shalvis, but also because Ivy owns and runs a taco truck. and I now need one of those in my life, or in my neighborhood at least. Throughout the book, she discusses like all of these different like things that she's making in her taco truck, and it will make you hungry, my friends. Those of you who are fans of tacos, breakfast tacos sound delightful. And yeah, this book was fantastic, really, really fun. Highly recommend. Next up, another in-series book, but again, my friends, you can read this one as a standalone. That's like I'm preaching out here. You can read these as a standalone. This is the third book in the From Manhattan with Love series, and it's Miracle on Fifth Avenue. This was actually turned into a Hallmark Christmas movie, I think called Christmas on Fifth Avenue, but I'm not absolutely certain. So this is, like I said, it's the third book in the From Manhattan with Love series. For those of you who might be participating next year in Elizabeth over at Lizzie Faye Loves Books' Serious About Series challenge that she does every year, next year one of the prompts is like trilogies. So the From Manhattan with Love series is actually 6 books in total, but it's 2 trilogies. So you read the first trilogy and then you can read the second trilogy. And because they are sort of interconnected, like they are interconnected, you meet some of the characters in the second trilogy in the first trilogy, but you don't have to have read one to enjoy the other. They kind of make, like the characters walk in and out of the different stories, but it's nothing that you necessarily absolutely have to follow. So the first set of 3 books, you could read throughout the year, the first 2, and then book 3 you could get to next Christmas if you wanted, which is this one, Miracle on Fifth Avenue. So Eva and Lucas. So Eva kind of is like a YouTube type personality. She does cooking and crafting and stuff, like very big social media presence. And she's been hired by this elderly woman to go into this woman's grandson's apartment in New York and decorate it up for the holidays, because he's supposed to be away at some writer's retreat in Vermont. And he is a thriller horror writer. And Eva is a very meek, quiet little thing. She doesn't like scary stuff. And, she thinks his books are creepy and she has no interest in them. And she shows up at the apartment and she's doing her thing, only to find out that he is still there. He lied to everybody about going away just so he could get some peace and quiet. And of course, what happens, as always happens in these stories, there is a huge snowstorm and the 2 of them end up getting stuck together in this apartment. So it's a forced proximity story. That part doesn't last for a long time, but then of course they become friends and the story goes from there. This book is fantastic. So many people who have read this series say that this is their favorite, and I can absolutely see why. Again, it is, I don't know if it's a Hallmark movie, but definitely a Christmassy Hallmark type movie. I don't know who exactly made the movie, but I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard really good things about it. So do go ahead and check this one out. It is fantastic. The 4th book I want to share with you is one that I had actually forgotten about, even though I gave it 5 stars. I read it about 2 or 3 years ago, and I was on a live show and we were talking about books, of course, and Christmas books, and somebody mentioned that they were reading a book by this author, and it dinged in my head. I remembered this book, and this is The Christmas Joyride by Melody Carlson. So this is actually a faith-based book, and I wouldn't necessarily consider this one to be a romance. There is a bit of romance in here, but it's definitely geared more towards women's fiction. And if that cover does not make you completely Christmassy happy, I don't know what else will. So this is the story of a woman named Miranda, and she has an older neighbor who's in her 80s, and they live in Pennsylvania. And this elderly neighbor has this RV, and she's being moved into a nursing home in Phoenix, Arizona. So this elderly woman decides she's going to drive from Pennsylvania, I think it's Pennsylvania, to Arizona, to her nursing home, where she's then going to have to give up her RV and all those things. So Miranda decides to go with her, and it's kind of their journey across the country. This was so wonderful, you guys. Such great Christmas vibes in this story. Again, it's not necessarily a romance, but it was just so fun. I loved it. And it's not a terribly long book either. Melody Carlson's books tend to be on the shorter side, around 250 pages. Highly recommend this book. I absolutely loved it. It was fantastic. And the last book I want to share with you is by one of my favorite authors, and this is Kathy's Christmas Kitchen by the great Tilly Tennant. So this is another one that I don't necessarily say I would consider it to be a romance per se, definitely more of a chick lit women's fiction novel. So this is about our main character named Kathy, and a year or so earlier, her mother passed away. She was her mother's primary caregiver for a few years. Her mother was quite ill. Her father had either taken off or passed away many, many years earlier. I think he passed away. So it was just her and her mom. And they were, she has a lot of memories over the holidays with her mom there. And this is the first Christmas without her. And she's a little upset about it. She goes for this walk and she meets this guy. And it's, again, this isn't necessarily a romance. This is definitely more of Kathy's journey, dealing with the death of her mother and the holidays and all those things. But this guy that she meets with his dog definitely, factor into, helping her deal with the holidays and the loss of a family member and things like that. Tilly Tennant is a fabulous author. I absolutely love her books. Love, love, love her books. And this one is one of my favorites. I just thought it was wonderful and Christmassy and very much a reason for the season kind of a book. And I highly, highly recommend it. So anyway, guys, that is all that I have for this video today. I do hope that you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below what are some of your favorite holiday romance books. And until my next video, take care and happy reading. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye, guys.